Welcome back into another edition of the Daily Fix. I am Steven Serda. I am not Ron Hughley, as most of you are used to here on Foolish Club Media, but some sad news, I guess, or not sad news. I don't know why I'm being morbid about it. Ron's just going to be out for a little bit here, and I'm going to be handling things for Foolish Club Media for the next week or so. So we'll see. Ron will be back soon and be better than ever. I don't know why I made that weird, but you get me for the next few days. So I got plenty of things I want to talk about. First off, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please make sure you do that at Foolish Club Media. And if you haven't tuned in to the Daily Fix before, I'll give you a quick rundown of how we operate here normally. We got few quick topics. We're not going to take up too much of your time. We're going to get you in, get you out, try to cover the headlines and cover whatever other interesting things we feel like talking about here on the Daily Fix. So I'll kick things off on today's show with, I guess, the biggest topic of conversation around the Kansas City Chiefs, and that has to do with their obvious need at wide receiver right now. Now, with Rashee Rice's status still up in the air, and we have legitimately no idea at this point whether or not this is a season-ending knee injury or whether or not he's going to be available anytime in the near future for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, we do this every year around the trade deadline. It doesn't even matter if the Chiefs have a legitimate need there. We like to link every available player to the Kansas City Chiefs because trade deadline in the NFL is simply just a fun thing to talk about. But as far as Rashee Rice goes, we're still waiting for an update on that. According to reports, maybe it could be sometime next week before we actually officially hear anything about Rashee Rice and the severity of his knee injury. But we're hoping for good news. Now, in the meantime, this Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room looks pretty similar to last year's, and honestly, it might be better based on the early returns from Xavier Worthy, and you hope you can get a little bit more out of Travis Kelce here moving forward. But it would make sense for the Chiefs to be in the trade market. Now, obviously, Devontae Adams for the Las Vegas Raiders is probably going to be a long shot for the Kansas City Chiefs. I would have to imagine that is absolutely not going to happen, but some other wide receivers on the market right now, Amari Cooper for the Cleveland Browns, Deontay Johnson maybe for the Carolina Panthers, though I don't know if that one makes a ton of sense after they trade for him this offseason. DeAndre Hopkins in the final year of his deal for the Tennessee Titans. Christian Kirk, the Jags are 0-4 and seem to be unraveling. Darius Slayton, Demarcus Robinson, those are a little bit more affordable options. At this point, I just find it hard to believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are actually going to make a move here. Now, I would prefer that they do that. I would feel better about them doing that moving forward because they obviously have a need there. And even if Rashee Rice somehow is able to come back and be healthy this season and be a valuable member of their team down the line because he was their most valuable offensive player through the first 3 games of the season, I still think they could use more depth there because it gets pretty ugly after Xavier Worthy now with Justin Watson and Sky Moore and McCole Hardman. Like, there's just not a ton of depth there for the Kansas City Chiefs. So they need to make a move, and that is apparent. I just don't think that we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs be consistent about that. And I don't think that the Chiefs it would really go against the way that they've operated over the last several years, where they're not the kind of team that makes these kinds of desperation moves and, puts the future in jeopardy by making a move like this. Now, we haven't seen them be this injured over the last several years. And that's the concerning part about all of this, is that they've really managed to avoid major injuries for the most part outside of that Super Bowl loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been really good at making sure that they have depth and that they can fill in those spots when they absolutely have to. We've just never seen the wide receiver injuries stack up quite like this for the Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe this is enough for them to make an uncharacteristic move. But as of right now, I'm not totally convinced that the Chiefs are going to be in the wide receiver market the way that fans hope they are going to be. Now, it would make it a lot more interesting. And the NFL trade deadline always has all of this hype around it, and it feels like it never actually lives up to it. Like, we never actually see a lot of these high-profile players go on the move in the NFL. But I hope they make a move. But as of right now, I'm not overly optimistic that's actually going to happen. And part of that is because I think the Kansas City Chiefs are currently in their defensive era. And that may be hard to accept for some Chiefs fans, because I know we're all still clamoring for this high-flying offense that has the capability of dropping 35 points a week or something like that. But I don't think that that's going to be the case this year. And after a full regular season last year of the Kansas City Chiefs being a defense-first team, and we saw down the stretch, it's, hey, we're just going to take the points when we need them. We're going to put Harrison Butker out there because we know Butker is going to be our most consistent player and putting up points, because the red zone deficiencies are still there for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now they're shorthanded in the skill position, and right now the best unit on this team is their defense. And so I think we need to accept that, because Steve Spagnuolo has been absolutely tremendous this year. For all the questions that we had about the Kansas City Chiefs defense coming in this season, they trade L'Jarius Sneed. Depth isn't quite what it was last year. They're going to wait on Charles Omenihu until midseason, and we don't know how things are shaping up. And then Mike Dana is out last week. Like, the depth is obviously a concern for the defense, but right now it is without a doubt the best unit on this team. And the Chiefs have shown already early in the season they are willing to lean on that defense if they have to. And so I think we just have to accept that at this point, the Kansas City Chiefs are in their defensive era. And Steve Spagnuolo is the best defensive coordinator in all of the NFL right now, and he continues to prove it on a weekly basis. So we're just going to have to accept that the Chiefs are a defense-first team at the moment. And it's going to be a slog of a regular season. Once again, at least we got this out of the way early in the year this time around, right? We don't have to sit here and try to pretend like the offense is around the corner and the explosion is coming for Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. I don't know if the offense is ever going to turn around this season. But what we do know is that when it comes to postseason play, there's no team in the NFL better than the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm fully confident that this team still has the pieces and the coaching staff and the players and everything to put it all together when it really matters. But right now, what matters for the regular season is they just keep winning football games, even if that means that those football games aren't particularly entertaining or fun to watch. So it might be a little bit before we actually see some entertaining football again. But as long as we continue to get dominant defensive play on a weekly basis from the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that's perfectly fine. So the Chiefs are in their defensive era, and I think that all of us are just going to have to accept it moving forward and just accept the fact that the high-flying offense might not happen again this year. But if we get a couple of deep shots a week to Xavier Worthy, I think we'll all settle for that based off of what we got last season from this offense. Final thing on today's episode of the Daily Fix. If you guys have listened to me and followed me over the last several years, I am a big movie guy and I watch pretty much everything. Like TVs, movies, I am up to date on everything. And we got news this week that the GOAT is back. Daniel Plainview himself, one of the greatest actors of our generation, Daniel Day-Lewis, has officially returned, as it was announced earlier this week. He is coming back from his 7-year retirement. He's starring in a Focus Features and Plan B's upcoming film, Anomaly, which marks the directorial debut of his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the absolute greatest actors that I have ever seen in my entire life. And I brought this up because if we were here with Ron the Show Hughley, we would probably not be talking about this. But this is something I was absolutely thrilled to be talking about, because There Will Be Blood is one of my favorite movies of all time. Daniel Plainview is one of the greatest characters ever put to screen. It is one of the greatest performances you will ever see in your life. So if you've never seen it, I highly encourage you to go see it. Masterpiece by Paul Thomas Anderson. But this is amazing. I thought Daniel Day-Lewis was done. I thought he was just hanging out in his house, making shoes, doing carpentry or whatever the hell it was that he was doing over the last several years. But this is incredible. It took his son and him co-writing a movie for him to come out of retirement. But the world is a better place when Daniel Plainview or Daniel Day-Lewis graces the silver screen. So this is just something that I'm very excited about, that I really wanted to talk about. And I hope everybody is up to date on this, and everybody should go check it out, because I'm sure it will be an absolutely incredible performance by one of the greatest living actors of our generation. That's all I got for you on today's episode of the Daily Fix. Again, we're coming at you live over here on Foolish Club Media every Monday through Friday at noon. So make sure you stay locked in. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Ron will be back very soon. But until then, we're going to be talking movies and Chiefs and whatever the hell else I feel like talking about. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.